That was so fucking scary.
You're not using your
It's the best way to
walkie-talkie.
learn.
You have to use your walkie-talkie
Yeah.
when you're not near us so we can't hear you.
Which one's the walkie-talkie? Is that C?
B.
B. Oh,
C is crouch, and I think you may press that one. There you go.
I was definitely that was crouching for sure.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my video on the top 10 things all new ghost hunters should know. If you're new to Phasmophobia, chances are you've already changed your key bindings. There's a couple of key bindings that are probably not worth changing. Don't bind anything to your left mouse button. Your left mouse button is technically used to open and close doors, and if you bind something to that, it will interfere every time you go near a door. So it's just best to not have anything on that left mouse button. The other thing is not changing your thermometer to Fahrenheit. This is because your objective is usually 10 degrees Celsius or below, or freezing, which is 0 Celsius or below. So it's just easier to remember 10 and 0. Tip number 2 is that gear does not need to come back to the van. Anything you leave in the house somehow magically makes it back into the van for you. So you can leave anything that's in the house in there, and it will show back up in your inventory for your next hunt. If you die, anything you bring with you is lost. Even if that item makes it back into the van, or even if your teammate is holding it, that item is still lost. Now, if you're playing on amateur, you get a 50% insurance for anything that you lost. If you're playing on intermediate, you only get 25%, and if you're doing professional, you don't get anything. It's actually more useful usually to bring items into the house and leave them there, and then go back to the van and get new items, rather than bringing things back and forth to and from the van. Tip number 3 is T for flashlight. If you are holding out your flashlight, you already know you can turn it on and off. But if you switch to another item, your flashlight seems to disappear and it turns off. By default, you can press T to turn your flashlight on. Now, if you're being hunted, you'll want to remember you have to press T to turn it off. Tip number 4 is about hunting. If you are new to the game, you may have already experienced a couple of hunts. It can sometimes be confusing to know when you need to hide or when the ghost is just messing with you. The main indicator that you're being hunted is a blinking flashlight. If your flashlight starts blinking, you are definitely being hunted. Once a ghost is hunting you, there is nothing you can do to prevent that hunt. You must hide or run. Key places to hide are usually closets or small rooms with the door closed, flashlight off, head down, and remember to be quiet. During a hunt, your walkie-talkie isn't going to work, so you won't be able to communicate with your teammates that are not nearby. And as of the most recent update, they've actually added static so that you know that your walkie isn't working. The next tip is to use the journal. My first 3 hunts, I didn't even know there was a journal, and so I didn't get my main objective, which is to identify the ghost. This will always be your first objective in every single one of your hunts. The only way to get that objective completed is to use your journal. So you'll want to press J to open your journal. The most important page is the last page. This is where you will enter all the evidence you have discovered, and it will help you narrow down what type of ghost you have. Our next tip is to bring a detection device. Every time I bring a new ghost hunter with me, they want to bring whatever shiny item they see in the van into the house. I see teammates pick up things that are not going to help them detect where the ghost is at, or at least not easily help them detect where the ghost is at. 2 items you want to make sure always come in to help you figure out where the ghost is at are the thermometer and the EMF. Both of these items are pretty good at helping you figure out the ghost location, and so you know where to set up. Things like motion sensors, a lot of those can kind of wait until your second, or even, in my opinion, your 3rd trip out to the van to get gear. And remember, even if you haven't got a reading on whatever items you bring in with you, you should leave them in the ghost room and come back to the van so you can bring back 2 more items. My next tip is about freezing temperatures. Freezing temperatures are 0 or lower if you're using Celsius. If you didn't follow my tip on the Fahrenheit, it's 32 degrees or below. This objective is confusing because very often people will say, I'm freezing, and it's like 65 degrees. It's not technically freezing, it's just cold. The 10 Celsius objective is looking for the colder area in the house. So you're looking for a 10 Celsius or below. Freezing temps will technically be 0 or less, so you'll get a negative reading on your thermometer. You don't need the thermometer to get the freezing temps. If you have found freezing temps, you'll actually see the cold breath in the air, and that's actually visible from the van too if you have a camera set up in the room. Tip number 8, dirty water. Do not waste time filling up the sinks. If your ghost is going to give you dirty water, it will turn on the sink and the water will be dirty. That can be a quick indicator of the location of your ghost. I use the sound of the running water as a clue to where the ghost may be. So if you hear a sink running, chances are that's where the ghost is or nearby. Tip 9 is about the ghost's name. I know it always tells us what the ghost's name is, doesn't clarify how it got that information, but we know the ghost's name every time we go into the location, and so it's tempting to just call out that ghost's name. However, if you're running into a location yelling, "Nancy Brown!" chances are Nancy Brown is going to come and kill you. Using the ghost's name will only make you its target, make your sanity dip, and make the ghost angry. You should save using the ghost name for times when you truly need to get the ghost to do something. If you're trying to anger it, you're trying to encourage it to hunt, maybe use a crucifix, or you want to get a picture of it or something like that, then by all means, use the name. But try to use it sparingly and only in the times when you know you're prepared for that ghost to hunt or to come after you. Tip number 10. Level 10 activity doesn't mean the ghost is hunting. Yes, when the ghost is hunting, the activity will be a level 10, but level 10 doesn't mean the ghost is hunting. Level 10 just means the ghost is more active. Remember, if your ghost is hunting, you will have a flashing flashlight. If your flashlight is not blinking, then you are not being hunted. And you can see that even if you're in the van. And finally, a couple of extra little tips for you. Sometimes sounds are more useful than tools. I know we go into houses and we hear a creak and we sometimes think this means the ghost is in that area. Once you've become a little more experienced, you sometimes discover those creaks can be a little misleading and are not always indicators of where the ghost is at, especially in the asylum. So listen for footsteps, doors opening, door handles, phones, the lights turning on or off, or doors opening or closing, anything of that sort. So don't get stuck on the creaks and instead use your ears. If you hear those sounds, then you know that means there's a ghost in that area. This works really well in those large locations. And finally, some objectives just aren't worth it. Once you've done a few dozen hunts, you're probably going to discover that some things are darn near impossible to get. For example, dirty water. If your ghost location is not near a bathroom or a sink, chances of you getting dirty water are fairly slim. So at some point you need to weigh whether or not your time is worth getting that dirty water or if it's better just to go to your next hunt. So consider your time and the effort it takes to get all those objectives before you push yourself to get every single one. I hope these tips helped. If you have your own tips, comment below and let me know what they are. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Happy hunting.
I can be